And here we are for yet another unboxing, and today we have the Timco Rally Kagama4. Now this is a platform that I'm actually really excited to test out because I know that I'm a little bit late to the party here with this truck. I know there's been a lot of other content creators out there that have already unboxed and run and reviewed this product. But in saying that, it's kind of given me a chance to check out some of that content, and by all accounts it seems like the Kagama4 is actually a really good solid platform for a 4S truck. Of course, it is based on the Synchro 4 chassis with, of course, a few changes to make it more of a monster truck. Obviously, longer arms, different tires, blah, blah, blah. But you know, the chassis itself is based on that Synchro 4, which is a lighter platform, and you know, it seems to be performing very, very well. So I'm really excited to test this one out. It does, of course, come ready to run, four-wheel drive, and has a top speed of about 75 kilometers an hour. And before we kick the box out of the way, I do want to note that as of the time of filming, Timco Rally have just announced the Punisher 4, and although some people have asked me if I'm going to be reviewing that truck, well, there's really not much point because it's essentially the exact same truck as this, just with a different body and obviously different stickers on the wing and so forth. But the wheels are the same, tires are the same. They really haven't changed anything on that truck. It would have been interesting if it had something different, maybe if the wheels or tires were different, maybe if they had different spoil, I don't know, like if there was a point of difference to make it warrant a purchase, then maybe I would have looked at it, but it's essentially the exact same truck with just a different body. So in saying that, both versions are available in a red. There's also a blue, and of course, the green, which is what I got. And yeah, I've got a little bit of a green theme going on the channel. It's been happening for a few years now. And if you look in the background, I've got the Morocco over there. Keep thinking about Kagama4. So there's the Morocco, we got the Kagama over here, we've got the Asuga just behind here, the Synchro 4, the Spark XB6, the Radix 6, and then over there with that orange body, which is a different body from stock, is the Skeeter. And then below that I actually have the Kronos XTR or XRT, I can't remember which way the order of the things go. And I think that's it. I don't know if I've got any other Timco Rally cars hidden away anywhere. I think that's pretty much everything from Timco Rally. So this is pretty much everything you get in the box. You get the radio, which is a CT2S radio, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We've got the manual. There is an antenna tube, which is comically oversized. I think all you need to do here is just cut that to size and put it in the car. We have a manual for the radio, which is going to take you through all the setups, and I think this might be written in a couple of different languages as well, hence why it's so thick, but that basically tells you everything you need to know about the radio. And then over here we have the manual in, oh hang on, there's a couple other things. Oh yeah, there's one for the Torox 135 ESC, so that has all your settings there as well. You can pause the video and have a look at what you can and can't change on that. I believe you can change BEC voltage to 7.4 volts. Yes, I do appreciate that. And then you've got punch level, comes out of the factory at 3. You can pump that up to 5. It's got drag brake. If you want to use the CSE on a crawler or something, you probably can do that. And reverse force, brake force out of the box is at 75%. I think that might be a bit too strong there, Timco Rally. You might want to dial that down. So I'm probably going to set that at about 37.5. I think that might be the sweet spot. We'll see how that goes. Because yeah, you don't want to be braking just to correct the car and it does a front flip hop or jump or something like that. It's really aggressive. Or worse, you can nosedive. So the manual is pretty much the same as all the other manuals from Timco Rally. Seems to be pretty well illustrated. A lot of info on here on how to set up, how to tune, what things are, and then there should be, here we go, parts list on the back. So if you do happen to have some mishaps and you need some parts, all your bits and pieces are listed on the back there for you to order. There's also an options parts list as well, which is pretty cool to see that. And a bunch of different screws, part numbers. Oh my god, this goes on and on. So lots of interesting reading there for you to put your kids to sleep when they're being a little restless. So moving on to the radio, we have the CT2S, which is a radio that I've shown on the channel before. It came with the Synchro 4, now it comes with the Kagama 4, and I'm sure it'll come with the Punisher 4 as well. This is an okay radio. It's not terrible by any means. I suppose the redeeming qualities of this is that it actually feels quite comfortable to hold in the hand. It doesn't have any funny lag or anything like that in the throttle or the steering. Everything seems to work in auto, and it's synced pretty well, and there's no disconnect between yourself and the car. It works totally fine. I suppose a couple of downsides with this radio is that it doesn't have a solid base for you to put it down, so it just tips over. You can probably put it like that, but I'll be honest, it feels really flimsy. You really just want to lay it down flat to avoid the tumbling over and getting damaged. It doesn't have throttle dual rate or a throttle limiter switch, so you can't go to 50% throttle or 75 and 100 like you see on some of the other radios. And of course, there's no throttle dual rate either. It does have steering trim, steering dual rate, on and off buttons just over here. The function button just here is kind of like hitting the shift key on your keyboard for capital letters, and that changes which channel you're going to be reversing with this little slider, because that's the reversing slider. So if you press the button here, I think you need to hold it, the light changes, and you'll read the manual and it gives you all that information on there. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So you shouldn't need to touch this out of the box. You're only going to be basically adjusting your steering trim and maybe adjusting your steering dual rate, and that's all you'll really be touching on this. It runs on 4 AA's, which go in on the handle underneath there, and then this little guy just clips back into place like so. And as I said, it feels okay. It just, it looks a little bit kind of a very cheapy sort of radio. But to be honest, it doesn't work in that cheapy category. It actually works perfectly fine and does the job. It's just a very basic, very simple handset. And of course, now we move on to the car itself, and the Kagama4, I gotta say, very aggressive looking. I don't know if for those of you, if you like the green more, you like the blue, maybe the red's more your style. As I said, I've just seemed to be going with the green because that just seems to be a going theme at the moment, and it works well with the Timco Rally stuff. The tires are the same that came on the Skeeter, which is that orange one over there with a different body. So that's that truck, and they feel very much the same as the, because I got the Skeeter tires on my Asuga. The only difference between those ones and these is that the foams feel a little firmer, but again, that's been driven and bashed really hard, so the foams in those tires are probably softened and broken down a little bit. These are fresh out of the box, so they're expecting to have them a little bit firmer feeling. But the tires don't feel any softer or any different from the original tires. When I sort of feel both of them next to each other, they feel exactly the same, and I'm pretty sure they are exactly the same. Suspension-wise, definitely feels like it's a bashing machine. It's got rather heavy oil in there. The springs are also a little bit heavy, but in saying that, it doesn't feel stiff. It just feels firm. It just feels like this is the type of vehicle that you're going to be bashing. It doesn't feel like it's going to be, it's really not tuned to be hugging apex corners and things like that at your local track. Of course, you could tune it for that, but out of the box, this is definitely set up for bashing. You can feel that in the suspension in the way that they've done this. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with what they've done. I think it feels very nice. The body itself, some people, as I said, may like it. Some people may hate it. You've got the Punisher 4 now, which is, you take the body off the same truck underneath. But this actually does look pretty good. You've got some roof skids on here as well to protect the body. Again, they're still not doing any tape or anything to prevent rubbing of the body. I do remember hearing something that they were going to be bringing out some lining tape or something to protect the paint from scrubbing off, but they still haven't done it. So we'll see when that will actually get implemented, or if they'll do it at all. But body feels pretty good. They've got the little body pins that are tethered on. That's been going on for a number of years now. So hopefully this holds up okay. I know the Kagama, the original Kagama one, which you can't see now because I've moved the camera, that one's held up pretty well. It's got a crack in the front here because I've absolutely bashed the living crap out of that body, but it's holding up actually really, really good. As we look under the body and have a look at everything here, you can see this is the layout, very traditional sort of Timco Rally layout. The receiver box, I think, is the same as the other ones. Might be a little bit different from the 6S cars, but this is very much the Synchro 4 layout with a few extra goodies in here thrown in. So first thing that pops out is you got this little piece here, which is for your Sky RC little GPS unit. So if you want to know how high you've launched this thing, how fast it's gone, you can clip the GPS unit in here and just read the data afterwards. I may actually give this a go. I've got a couple of these GPS units, and I might actually put one in here. I'll zip tie it into place as well so I don't lose it, it doesn't pop out. And we're gonna see how high I've actually driven it, how fast it's gone, and it'll be interesting data to see what we get out of it. I will say, the way that this thing is laid out, and just looking at it with the body off, there's a lot going on here that is quite different from what I'm used to seeing in the 6S cars. But at the same time, it almost looks better. And it's weird to say that because this is only a 4S car. But the first thing you're gonna notice, of course, we don't have alloy shocks. We've got plastic body shocks with alloy caps, and then not even like the full alloy caps. They've got just this alloy ring around, and then the actual bit that holds onto the shock tower is plastic itself. In saying that, I haven't heard of anybody really breaking these on a regular basis. It seems like they're pretty tough and they're done pretty well. So I think the shocks will be fine. And I've said this for many years now where, we all like to have alloy shocks on our trucks and our cars because it looks good, it looks like an upgrade, blah, blah, blah. But I've had several cars with plastic shocks and there's been absolutely nothing wrong with them. If they're done right, plastic shocks are totally fine. And if anything, they're lighter than the alloys. So it can actually work in your advantage by having plastic body shocks. They also have these little covers here on top, which I think is a nice touch to protect, if you land upside down, which let's face it, a lot of us do land upside down. That's going to protect those shocks as well. Hopefully the standoffs hold up. Now they do not come with sway bars pre-installed, but you'll see on the front here, there is provisions for the sway bar. So this could be an optional extra that you might be able to do. I think you can do it on the back as well. They do have the provisions for them on the A-arms. I'm also seeing that they've got droop screws pre-installed on this as well. Nice beefy front bumper on here with, of course, those little washers that they like to put on. Tim Corelli, that's a really nice touch. The chassis itself etched as well. Not your traditional black. They've got like this gunmetal sort of looking color going through it, which I think looks really, really good. The A-arms, nice and strong. I believe that these are the same, same sort of design that you'll find on some of their other cars as well. Fixed camber links here, or toe links rather, these ones are. And that's totally fine for bashers. The less you fiddle around with these things sometimes, the better, especially if you don't really know exactly how to adjust them. This can actually be a really good thing. Take it out of the box, charge your batteries, and away you go. You don't have to adjust too many things and fiddle around with it too much. Of course, you can swap these out for adjustable ones. I believe that they are available or will be available in the future. If not, you'll be able to retrofit something in here and make that work if that really does mean something to you and you want to do it. The shock towers are a bit of a hybrid between plastic and alloy. There is a big aluminium piece just here that captures the hinge pins, which I think is really good to see. And then of course the rest of the shock tower kind of goes from the top of the bulkhead here and wraps around that alloy piece, and it just looks super strong. Personally, I don't have a problem with plastic shock towers like this. They can be really, really good. You might end up having a little tiny bit of flex, but for bashing vehicles, again, that could be an advantage rather than having to bend shock towers all the time. So you're keeping weight down. You've got the alloy on the parts that matter, which is your hinge pin braces here, and the shock tower absorbs the impact. I think that's a positive. Nice beefy adjustable body post right behind that. And then as we move back on the car, you can see these really beefy chassis braces that go from the top here all the way across to the center, and then the same thing happens in the rear here as well. You got this really beefy chassis brace that goes on the bottom there, and then this thing here also holds the top and holds this for your GPS unit. Everything links up in the center, so this isn't one piece. You can see that there's two screws there holding two separate pieces, which is going to prevent this from flexing, which is a good thing. And then of course you got your little body support just here. The only thing I kind of hope that, or wish that they would do, is have this kind of really meet the underside of the body, which I don't believe it does. So I don't know, they used to have a bit of a really dense block of foam on these, and they stopped that. So I would like to see that implemented in the future, where, you know, this actually meets the underside of the body and supports it when you do land upside down. So I don't know, that's just a thought. As we continue going back, we've got our battery tray here, which comes default with a little spacer just over here. You can remove that to accommodate longer battery packs as well. Only have 2 straps on here. This is probably not a bad thing with 2 straps, because most people are only going to be using like 3S or 4S batteries with this. So, you know, 2 straps are okay. The 6S cars, I feel, need 3 straps, or they need stronger straps, because those 6S batteries are a lot heavier, right? So when you do have mishaps and cartwheels and crash upside down and all that sort of stuff, there's more inertia because of the weight of the pack. And I've broken a couple of these battery straps with those bigger batteries. Not to say that you probably couldn't break them with the 4S battery if they're big enough and heavy enough, but in most cases, you know, I think the 2 will be okay. But at the very least, I would like to see some stronger battery straps on here in the future. Hopefully that's something that Timco Rally can do. We've got our Torox, I think it was a 135 ESC just here. This comes standard with a single XT90 connector, which I do appreciate, because having 2 connectors seems a bit pointless in here. I think the single one makes more sense, so I appreciate that. Little push button right on the back here, easy to access even with the body on. You can just reach your finger around and turn that on without having to remove the body. So again, another big positive there. On the opposite side, of course, we've got our steering servo over here, alloy servo horn, receiver box just under here. Now these receiver boxes, I don't believe are waterproof. They might be a little bit splash proof, but they're not 100% sealed. So if you are driving in the snow, if you're driving somewhere where there's like big puddles, just be mindful that you might get some water in there. Now, if you're not going to be anywhere near water, you probably don't even have to put that antenna tube in here. You can just push this antenna down like that and just leave it out. It's not going to do any harm. But alternatively, just cut a little bit of that tube off and put it in here just to protect that antenna in case, I don't know, something flies up and actually damages your antenna. Behind that, we've got our center diff, which is really hard to see. You can't really see it. It's buried underneath a lot of plastic and everything, but it does look like, I think this actually has an alloy case, or is it plastic? Let me have a look. No, I think it might be plastic. Correct me in the comments. I saw something on the box, but I can't remember if the case is alloy. I think it might be plastic. It feels like plastic. So that's the center diff in there. We've got a little cover over the pinion and spur gear here to protect any sort of wires or fingers touching that accidentally. The motor itself is a, where does it say? It says 3 to 4S actually, so I wonder if even 2S would work with this. I thought 2S would have been okay. Maybe I've misspoken there. But does it have the kV on here? Yeah, 2150 kV, and it's a 4-pole motor, and I will put the specs. I think it's a 68 size can by 40, maybe. I'll put the specs up on screen anyway for you guys to have a look at. But these motors have been pretty good. The Synchro 4 was definitely not lacking power and speed, performed exceptionally well. So hopefully if this thing's geared up correctly, it's going to perform very nicely as well. A nice beefy beefy plastic rather, body posts thing that they got going on here. And I've just noticed as well, there are 2 mounting positions for your body posts. So you can see that they've got an inner mounting position as well. And on this one, they also have an outer mounting position available. So if you do decide to swap out the body, and you've got something where, oh, these actually interfere with, I don't know, something, a mold on the body or whatever, you can switch them out. And likewise at the front, you can switch them out to the outer holes to accommodate different bodies. I think that's actually a really good idea. That's something that not a lot of companies sort of allow for that when you want to put aftermarket bodies on. The rear shock tower, again, very much a similar story to the front, where you have a bit of a hybrid. So you've got a bit of alloy here holding on to the camber links, and then you've got the shock tower, which is mostly plastic going on the top of that. And you'll notice that the wing mount is actually part of the shock tower. It is not screwed on to the shock tower, it is part of it. The only thing that's actually screwed onto the shock tower is the wheelie bar at the back, and it doesn't look to be adjustable in any way, shape or form, so that's okay. Doesn't seem like there's ball bearings in here either, not that that really matters, but that seems like it's going to be able to take a few hits and not completely collapse on itself. And then of course we've got our rear bumper back here, which again, those nice little washers there just to add a little nice touch to the car. The A-arms and everything looks good. We got standard dog bones at the back. They look to be about I'm going to say 4 mil, maybe 5 mil in diameter. We got CVDs at the front with your standard little pillow bowl setup as well. Everything feels good. Everything feels solid. There's nothing here that's sort of raising any questions or, you know, any eyebrows. You know, suspension feels good. The tires I know are going to be solid. The other thing to keep in mind as well, and this is something that was pointed out, I can't remember where I saw it. I think it may have been DoRC that actually showed it. But these wheel nuts are actually serrated now, which is, you know, let's give Tim Corelli a bit of a round of applause there, because it's been a long time that I've been sort of mentioning that for a while. In fact, my initial reviews of these cars, I kept leaving it out because I didn't have too many issues with it, but a lot of people kept commenting on my videos, you forgot to leave out that they need to, you know, put serrated wheel nuts. And eventually I started bringing that up, and so did a lot of other content creators, and finally Tim Corelli have made the switch, and now the wheel nuts are serrated, so when you tighten them up and you can actually feel them locking into the plastic of the wheel, so you're less likely to have wheel nuts coming off, you know, as long as you torque them in correctly. So you don't have to crank it in there with like a rattle gun, you just have to tighten it, they'll bite into the plastic, and that's it. So really good to see that they've got now serrated wheel nuts, and that's pretty much it as far as features on this truck goes. I think it is a very promising platform. I think both this and the Punisher 4 are going to be absolute winners for Tim Corelli this year. You know, I hope that they continue on their path, because they seem to be doing a lot of things right, and yeah, this is another prime example of them listening to their customer base and bringing something out that's a little bit lighter than the Skeeter. The Skeeter I always felt was a really heavy truck, very strong, very durable, but quite heavy. This feels a lot nicer, it feels a little bit lighter, feels a little bit more in tune to its own spec, where that was kind of like an 8 scale compressed into a 4S machine. And it just carried on a lot of weight and a lot of unnecessary bracing in some areas. Like, it was just a little bit different, and this looks like a much better design, you know, designed from the ground up, and it's now sort of carrying over from the Synchro 4. So there's a lot of really good here, and you know, and yeah, so let's see how this thing holds up. And there we have it. That's my first look and thoughts on the Tim Corelli Kagama4 / Punisher 4, I guess. I think this is going to be a really good platform, as I said, and I wish Tim Corelli all the best with it. I personally cannot wait to get out there and run it. Going by the videos that I've seen online, this looks like a lot of fun and a really good truck to just take out of the box, go out and have a bash with it. So I'm very much looking forward to it. If you want to see the results of that run, be sure you subscribe to the channel. I am going to be uploading a little bit more frequently this year. I'm going to be doing a few more things this year as well. I got plans for some other products to come in as well. So there's a lot going on. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And of course, don't forget to hit that like button before you go. Thank you all very much for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you around next time.